Okay, now put me on pause and make sure that you print out the story that we're about to read together. If you haven't, put me on pause now and we'll talk about it in a second. Okay, we are going to read this together. I'm going to read it at a pace that you need to keep for the ACT. So it's going to sound like I'm reading fast, but I have to. I have to get you ready for it. I'm going to tell you to circle and I'm going to tell you to underline and star. You have to remember how to do that. Okay? Are you ready? This is from a short story and you should always read the introduction. The conversation occurs at a high school gymnasium. Here we go. Quote, I really want you to stay after practice today, circle practice, to help the young players, circle that, with their passing and shooting. Put a star by that. I don't have time, coach, circle coach. I have so much work to do before finals, circle finals. Really, Charlie? Circle Charlie. You have already been accepted into college, circle college. You received that amazing scholarship offer, circle scholarship. For lacrosse, circle lacrosse. From the university, circle university, right? Okay, now Charlie's answering. Yep, but coach, that scholarship depends on how well I do this semester too. Circle how well I do. What do you mean, Charlie? This is the coach speaking. Circle Charlie. I thought you'd been on the honor roll. Circle that. Every semester. Circle that. Since you were a freshman. Circle that. Am I dreaming? Is there another Charlie Mirasol? Circle that. In your class here at Central? Circle Central. Oh, coach. I'm the only Charlie Mirasol, circle only Charlie Mirasol. In fact, I'm the only Charlie in the senior class, circle senior class. It's just that I kind of messed up last semester, circle messed up. I mean, I really messed up, big time. The intense, though diminutive, middle-aged coach, hey, that's a list, put a star by it. Coach Campbell, circle that, dressed in red and white athletic gear, circle that, looked small, circle that, next to the large, muscular Charlie. Put a star by large and muscular. He glared right through Charlie with laser beam eyes, circle laser beam eyes. Campbell's face soon matched the red letter, circle that, on his Hawks lacrosse shirt, circle that. Are you kidding me? After all your hard work the past 3 years, circle 3 years, you screwed up? What the heck does that mean? I happen to be walking by my fellow coach. Now, circle fellow coach and notice there's no quote here. This is a new person. On my way to the tennis courts, circle tennis courts. I was going to stop and congratulate Charlie on becoming a tiger, circle tiger. I decided not to stop. I'd underline that. The conversation seemed way too intense to interrupt with a nonchalant comment. My hands, circle that, felt very numb, circle that, and I clumsily dropped my bucket of balls, circle that. Both Charlie and Coach immediately started to help me collect my wares, but I waved them off, murmuring, "That's okay, guys. I can grab these." Next paragraph. Charlie looked like a dog, circle dog, with its tail between its hind legs, circle tail between its hind legs. His strong, bulky frame, put a star by that, seemed to shrink before my eyes. He looked down and mumbled a response to his coach. It means that I didn't turn in any of my work in my Spanish class, my English class, and my history class. You got it. That's a list. Put a star by it, but circle Spanish, English, and history. I really messed up. I'm fine in math and physics. Put a star by that and circle math and physics. What? Exclaimed Coach Campbell. What were you thinking? Or more appropriately, what were you not thinking? Okay, so now we're getting the picture here. Campbell hit his own head. Circle that. He hit his head. Well, Charlie, what now? I'm so sorry. Circle sorry. I really feel bad about all this. Circle bad. I was just so thrilled to be, quote, in college, circle that I think I really got a bad case of senioritis. Circle that. I'm so disappointed in myself. Circle that. You must hate me. At that point, I had gathered my rackets, so now we're back to that tennis person. Circle rackets and the bucket of balls. Circle that. That's a list. Those are the two things she gathered or he gathered. And I went outside. The coach was yelling, so I could hear him as I proceeded down the hallway. Circle hallway. Hate you? No. Frustrated with your immaturity? Circle immaturity. Yes. We can't do anything about the past. That stupidity is water under the bridge now. And I'd circle that water under the bridge, especially if you've never heard that before. Can you promise me that you will buckle down and get the grades that you need the rest of this term? So I'd circle buckle down, circle grades. Yes, Charlie Mustard. If you don't, son, circle son, this could be a very, very expensive mistake. And circle expensive and mistake. All right. Now, if you didn't get that, put it on pause and do it again. And listen and make sure that you circle it. Listen to it 3 times if you need to before you move on. Reading lesson number 3, how to answer the questions. Okay, so the first thing we need to figure out is which ones are the easiest. Now you have 2 choices. You can either go in order and skip the ones that look hard, or you can start looking for the easy ones right off the bat. Today we're going to do them in order, but I will tell you which ones that I would consider bounce-through questions, meaning you want to circle something, but you also want to circle the number in your test book so that if you have time, you can come back and take another stab at it. Okay, here's what I consider easy. Number 1, the easiest questions are short ones that mention a line. So anytime they mention a line, you want to do those first because they're basically telling you where to look. Number 2, look for the questions that start like this. The passage states, or the author states, or according to the passage, or according to the narrator. Do those next, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Number 3, list questions that say anything like, all of the following are listed except, or but, or not. And number 4, avoid questions that are list questions that say throughout the passage. Now, those are hard. Those are going to take you too long. If you have time for those, you can do them at the end. If not, just guess on those because you can't keep track of every little list in the of everything they said in the whole passage unless you're a super reader, in which case you'll do that last. Number 5, do last. Any questions that use these 2 words, infer or implied. Okay, now let me go over the difference between according to the passage questions and the passage indicates and those that say one may infer or imply. These are 2 different things. So pause, 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 and write all of this down. The first type of question will be answered right in the passage. I mean literally, either word for word or paraphrased. So your job is to read the answers, and if you remember it, great. If you don't, then look it up from what you circled. You always want to try to get it right without looking it up. If you don't remember it, then look it up. Now, the questions that are super hard, and there will only be a few of these, will use the word either implied or inferred. This means that the answer is not in there in black and white. It's not written out. You have to figure it out from what you read. Now, if you're a very good reader and you read a lot, these will not be too hard for you because they're based on something you read. But if you are not a big reader, not a big fan of reading, they're typically the most difficult to do. So in general, this is very important. If an answer has even 1 word that's not right, it's not right. If it has 1 word that says too much, it's 100% wrong. I usually tell people, choose the answer that says the least, especially if you're choosing between 2 answers. Here's what I mean by this. If you had a choice between sometimes I do this and always, or usually, sometimes is always going to win over always. And all of them would win over never. As you look through the answer choices, make a decision about every single answer before you move on. Your decision may even be that it's a maybe, but keep moving forward. Be decisive, like, oh, that could be right. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Number 2, look for the main point of each paragraph as you read. The main drift of the story is going, and the main drift of the story. All of these are going to guide you to the right answer. If you pay really close attention to the first and last paragraphs, you can read the rest of the essay a little faster, but pay really close attention to the first sentences. You can read it super fast as long as you get the main idea. The main idea is going to help you out so much. So think about that as you read. Number 3, this is an open book pop quiz. You don't have to close your book. So use the stuff you're given. Focus on the question that they're asking you and find the answer. It's much more of a seek and find. And by doing what I tell you to do, you're going to remember a lot more. Remember, you can go in order, but you need to bounce if you hit a hard one and come back to it. Put something down, but circle it so you can come back to it because you might get the answer later on. Or if you like to skip around, You can do the short ones first, especially the ones that mention specific lines, because those are almost always going to be super easy. Now, if you haven't printed the story out, stop it now and print out the story because we're going to use it. I'm going to print out the story and the questions. Here's the link again. Okay, but I'm a little mad at you for not listening to me at the beginning because you need to do this right the first way. So make sure you have your paper and your pencil, your copy of the story and the questions, and then we'll do these together. All right, ready to do these together? Now I'm going to use the bounce strategy here. That means I'm going to skip a question if I feel like it's kind of hard. I'm going to tell you, and you should do the same. Here we go. The passage is told from the perspective of A, Charlie, B, Coach Campbell, C, a tennis coach at Charlie's high school, D, an omniscient first-person narrator. Okay, this is your narrator question, just like I promised you. I want you to start thinking about it and look back at your story and look at your paper. That's where I want your eyes. Okay, even though it does not use the word narrator specifically. So pause and guess. If you were paying close attention to the story, then you picked up on the idea that neither Charlie nor his coach told the story. It was another coach. So C would be the answer. If you didn't know, then you could circle it and come back to it. If you look at D and you don't know what it is, you should probably learn it. I went over it earlier. An omniscient narrator is one who seems to know what everyone is thinking. This is sometimes the case on the ACT. All right, so you should know by now from our little discussion the answer is C. Number 2, check your screen. According to the passage, which of the following subjects is Charlie doing well in? F, history, G, Spanish, H, physics, J, English. All right, I want you to pause and take your guess. If you did your circling, you should be able to find these subjects easily. If you put a star by the line or lines where the list of these subjects, the subjects in school occurs, then you'll be able to find it even faster. Hopefully you see that Charlie, got it? Doing well in physics, H. All right, the next question is pretty difficult. This may be one where you may want to guess and move on. If you're not a strong reader, if you look at the answers and you really don't know, please don't get hung up on this one. And I'd much rather you get a bunch of easy ones right rather than this one and run out of time. For those of you who want to try, here we go. Now, everyone should be doing it, even though you may not get it right. Remember, this is a typical bounce question. Number 3, the passage is best described as A, a character sketch of two people as related by a third person. B, an overheard conversation that reveals a possible issue facing a student athlete. C, a coach telling a student the best way to get a scholarship to college. And D, a conversation between a student and a coach reflecting on their football season. All right, let's look at A, a character sketch. All right, now this is not really a character sketch. A character sketch, even though a sketch is a quick drawing, on the ACT it doesn't mean that. It means that there's a lot of detail. It means that we get to know a lot about these people. We just generally know how they look here and how they acted in this situation. So A does not work. Strike it out. B, an overheard conversation that reveals a possible issue facing a student athlete. Now, here's a really good answer. We definitely know that this coach overheard this conversation. And saying a possible issue is just the kind of answer we want. We never, never, never pick a strong answer unless we were 100% positive that it is true. This is a very vague answer, and the ACT loves vague answers. It's easy to prove. B looks good. Put a little mark by it. C, a coach telling a student the best way to get a scholarship to college. If you even paid attention at all, you know this is about keeping his scholarship, not getting one. And D, the conversation between a student and a coach reflecting on their football season. Bah, no, it was lacrosse. It was not football. All right, moving on to number 4. In line. What does the term water under the bridge most nearly mean? Now, if you go back to the line, figure out what the main idea is, and then find the answer that seems like it will fit. The sentence says, we can't do anything about the past now. Now look at your answers, put me on pause, and decide what you think means that. That's what we're looking for, an answer that means we can't do anything about it now. Okay, F, the school system is unfair. Does that mean we can't do anything about it now? No. G, Charlie is better in math and science than in verbal subjects. No. H, Charlie really can't do anything to change his immature mistakes that he already made. Perfect. And J, Charlie likes to play hooky in the nearby river. Sometimes they do those crazy answers. Just get rid of it. Hopefully, everyone knows that the answer is H. All right, number 5. Check your screen, get your pages out, and let's do it. It can reasonably be inferred from the passage that Charlie. Now, this is going to likely be a hard question, as I warned you, because it says reasonably be inferred. That means, if you were listening to me, that the answer will not be in there, but rather something that you have to figure out from what you read. So ask yourself, could I prove this if I had to? A, up to this point he had a 4.0 average. Can you prove that? No. B, he is the best lacrosse player at a school. Can you prove that from what you read? No. C, he always talks to the coach after school. No way we can prove that. But D, he may lose his scholarship to college if he doesn't do well in school this term. Yes, that's what the coach said, so the answer has to be D. Moving on to number 6. Check your screen. The passage indicates that the mascot of the high school that Charlie attends is likely. Now you have to be very careful. I would look at the answers below and see if I saw them anywhere, but before you do it, you may want to double check and not trust yourself. F says Beavers. I don't think anyone heard me say that word. G says Hawks. They definitely mentioned Hawks on the coach's shirt. H says Cavaliers. No, that's just my plug for my home team. And J says Tigers. Okay, now he will become a Tiger. Remember? That's what that other narrator coach said. But he is a Hawk now. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Because that's the coach's shirt had a hawk on it. All right, number 7. The passage implies that the narrator of this passage is likely. Now, this could also be a bounce question if you want to come back to it later. It's another implied question. So here's what it says. Is the narrator A, a tennis coach at the high school? Well, we heard this person had a bucket of balls and a racket. That's a pretty darn guess. A visiting lacrosse coach? There's no proof of that. A college tennis coach? This person is in their high school. We don't really have anything to help us believe that. And a fellow student, I don't think anyone thinks that. So the answer of that one is A. Number 8. Which of the following is not mentioned in the passage? All right, on your paper. If you didn't circle not, oh, you're in trouble with me. All right, circle the word not. Okay, now, this becomes super easy. If you carefully read the last paragraph, then you would see senioritis. And if you're not sure, you want to leave it in. Let's look at these answer choices. F, some of the classes that Charlie takes. So we definitely know that was in there. G, senioritis. If you didn't remember it, you could just kind of trace the passage. Sometimes I tell people to drag their finger down the middle and kind of look for the word they circled, and you would definitely have circled senioritis. H, Charlie's GPA. Oh, I didn't see that GPA. I heard he was on the honor roll, but I never knew his GPA. J, the colors that Coach Campbell is wearing. I know you circled red and white. So the answer has to be H. Number 9. It may be inferred that Coach Campbell feels what about Charlie's situation? Here's probably the most difficult question of all, mostly because it is an inference, but possibly because you have to interpret emotions and you may not know the vocabulary. For many of you, this could be your bounce question that you come back to, but let's go one by one and see if we can prove it. That's really your best bet. See if you can prove every word that you know, and if you can, it's probably the answer. A, disappointment, anger, and fear. Well, yeah. Coach Campbell's disappointed. He's definitely angry and definitely fearful. So A looks pretty good. B, pity and sympathy. I didn't get any of that. I don't think you did either. C, happiness and excitement. Not. D, anger and jealousy. That makes no sense. Anger, true, but jealousy? Who's he jealous of? So it has to be A. All right, one more, and these are super easy. In line. The word diminutive probably means, all right, you have to look at the whole sentence that the word is in that line, read it, and see what you think. The sentence says, the intense, though diminutive middle-aged Coach Campbell looks small next to large, muscular Charlie. So J is correct. Just for the record, angular means full of angles. But let's look at these. F, huge, no. G, angular, no. H, jittery, no. And even if you left in G because you didn't know what it meant, J, small, is perfect.